wa barakatuhu. Good afternoon each and everyone, especially to our instructor, Ma'am Baiputri Moraya Amil. Good afternoon po, ma'am. And before I proceed to discuss the lesson, I will introduce myself first, and I am Narhata Manyardadir from Bachelor of Physical Education. This is our video presentation about Lesson 6, which is Islam in Muslim History. And my partner to this report or to this topic is Rosaline Bancil de Leon. Since we are partner, we decide to divide the lesson. So, as a reporter, I decide to explain the highlighted in the lesson 6, which are, for the first one, for the Islam and its basic tenets. For the second one is, and for the some issues on Islam. And for the third one is on being just and harmonious with others. And for the fourth one is on religious tolerance or on not eating pork. And for the fifth one is and for the on jihad and terrorism. And for the sixth one is the jihad ul asgar, which is the lesser jihad. And for the last one but not the least is the jihad ul akbar, which is the greatest jihad. But before I proceed to explain or to discuss what is Islam in Muslim history, I will explain first what is tenets. Tenets is a belief or principle that is held by a group as a being true. As a clear example of tenets is the Muslim belief that Allah is the only God. Islam is basic tenets. In the face of recent global and local terrorism, we see many people blaming Islam as the cause of hostilities and violence. However, reveal that Islam is a religion of peace and that it encourages peaceful coexistence between Muslim and non-Muslims. Islam means absolute surrender or submission to the will of God or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Etymologically, it is derived from the word salam, which literally means peace. Islam is supposed to be a religion of peace, and the Muslim or person who absolutely surrender to the will or God or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are supposed to be peaceful and righteous people. Islam defined as complete submission to the will of Allah. So now, we will know the complete submission to the will of Allah. Meaning, Muslim believes that there is only one God, and the Arabic word for God is Allah. A simple definition or meaning of Islam is to live in submission to the will of Allah, into their daily lives by showing faith in Allah. Have a one question here. What is the will of Allah? In the Islamic perspective, Allah's will is discernible in the scriptures that revealed to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam who received the Quran. So now, let's proceed to the end for the some issues on Islam. In terms of this, discussing the 5 pillars admittedly insufficient to understand Islam as religion of peace. So now, we will know and discuss the 5 pillars in Islam. This is the 5 primary obligations that all Muslims believe they must follow. The 5 tenets serve as a basic guide as to know Muslim and should live their lives. The 5 tenets are Shahada, Salah, Zakat, Saum, and Hajj. On being just and harmonious with others, the Quran sets rules that command Muslims to be just and harmonious with other people. A concept like racism has no place in Islam. So now, what is racism? Racism is the belief that groups of humans possess different behavioral traits corresponding to inherited attributes and can be divided based on the superiority of the race over another. As a Muslim believes, all people are children of Adam. For the fourth one is on religious tolerance or on not eating pork. Islam also encourages peaceful coexistence among diverse groups of various religions. On not eating a pork, it must be cleared at this juncture that prohibiting the eating of pork is not monopoly of Islam. In fact, some Christian sects like the Seventh-day Adventists also prohibited the eating pork. The Quran simply mentioned that certain foods are unclean. So now, we will know how pork is unclean. The Quran does not explain, but modern science tells us the continued eating of pork causes ailments like high cholesterol. And for the fifth one is, and for the on jihad and terrorism. Those who misunderstand jihad point to it as confirmation of Islam's violent nature. In recent years, jihad has caused a stir in the non-Muslim world because of its presumed relationship to terrorism. Jihad is a part of Islam, but it is not all about violence. Literally, it means struggle, even mental and internal self-struggle. Some translate it is a holy war. Before one imagines the ugly images of killings and destructions in battle, it is important to know the two types of jihad. The jihad with asgar and jihadul akbar. For the first one is jihadul asgar, which is the lesser jihad. It refers to the physical jihad that Muslims should wage in times of oppression of persecution, injunction from the home and property, or violent attack because of the practice of their religion. Since the Quran clearly forbids starting hostilities, the term defense war is more appropriate to describe this type of jihad. Jihadul asgar, therefore, should never be offensive, and Prophet Muhammad ﷺ clearly defined certain rules to follow in times of unavoidable armed confrontation. Part of the rules is being described below. Being a religion of peace, the Quran's policy is well defined with a list of rules and conditions that protect the interests of Muslims while avoiding unnecessary aggression. The Sunnah dictates that if the decision for violent confrontation is made, it must be agreed upon by the nation, which is not decided by a minor group of radicals. Once war is declared, Muslims must adhere to certain rules from the Quran and Sunnah that protect both parties. For the second one is Jihadul Akbar, which is the greatest jihad. The physical struggle, which is considered the lesser form of jihad, does not assume the totality of the meaning of the world. In fact, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ teaches that there is one form of jihad that is far greater than the physical struggle that Muslims should wage during a persecution. Unlike Jihadul Asgar, this other type of jihad must be waged every day. This jihad is in fact that holy war against the self, or against the base appetites of the self.
Assalamualaikum and good day everyone. I am Rosalyn Bancel de Leon, BS Social Work from the College of Public Affairs and Governance. In this video, let us continue to discuss the Islam and Moro history. And now, let us proceed to Muslim women wearing of the veil or kumbung. It is common observation that Muslim women wearing veil or kumbung, locally known as the kumbung. Kumbung is what we call hijab or tandong. This is a casually veil for Muslim women. Yes, the wearing of kumbung is actually traceable to the verse in the Quran that says, and tell to believing women to lower their gaze and be modest, and to display of their adornment only that which is apparent, and to draw their veil bills or kumbong over their bosoms and not to reveal their adornment except to their husbands and their fathers. Actually, wearing bills or kumbong is a form of modesty and dressing, but as practice, some Muslim women reinvent the way of wearing the bill, which may not to be always appropriate. The reason why the Blessed Virgin Mary and some nuns are shown to wear bills or kumbong is the same reason why Muslim women wear bills or kumbong. That's it. And now let us proceed to the message of Islam before Allah's eyes. The message of Islam on the equality of all people before the eyes of Allah, the protection of the women and orphans, the obligation of the rich to feed the poor and hungry, the encouragement of the strong to help and protect the weak, the high moral values associated with this religion, and the strong zeal of some Muslim leaders to spread the faith all contributes to the natural expansion of Islam to other parts of the world. We all know that Islam is the religion of peace and equality, and it always spread the message of equality among Muslims because all Muslims are equal in the eyes of Almighty Allah. We all should know that and remember that one basic element of the value system of Islam is the principle of equality. All are equal in the eyes of Almighty Allah. The only distinction which Allah recognizes is the distinction of piety. And the only principle which Allah applies is the principle of goodness and spiritual excellence. Spreading Islam to southern island of Philippines. The spread of Islam to the southern islands of the Philippines must have occurred along with the Islamization of island Southeast Asia. It is not far from possible that Muslim Arab traders had begun trading in the Philippines long before the native began to embrace Islam. The religion of Islam spread rapidly in the 7th century. Islam spread quickly because of the military. During this time, on numerous accounts, there were military raids. Trade and conflict were also apparent between different empires, all of which result in the spreading of Islam. Muslim merchants and the local population, as well as commerce through the Silk Road between the south of the Philippines and other neighboring regions such as Brunei, Malaysia, or Indonesia encouraged the spread of Islam amongst their local population. Therefore, one would say that Islam arrived in the Southeast Asia in peaceful way through trade and interactions between Muslims merchants that the locals. Similarly, the Buddhism Islam blended with existing cultural and religious influences that the Southeast Asia regions. The introduction of Islam in Sopala. As the question of who introduced Islam in Sulu, the answer is not defined either. Nevertheless, if one were to believe the written genealogies of Sulu, locally known as Salsila or Tarsila, then it was a certain Tuan Mashaika who brought in Islam in Sulu. But there could have been many Tuan Mashaikas, as the name is a title and not a proper name of a person. Peter Going says. The written source also of Tausug, the predominant group in Sulu, are said to carry themselves a little straighter than other Moro groups because they were the first to be won to Islam. The Tarsilas genealogy and traditions of Sulu speak of a foreigner who bore the title Tuan Masyaika and who came to Hulu long ago, married the daughter of a local chieftain and begot Muslims, meaning that he raised his children as Muslim. One Tarsila mentioned that Tuan Masyaika came when the people of Hulu were still worshipping stones and other inanimate objects. Islamization, the process of Islam taking root among the people, may well have begun the Tuan Masyaika raising Muslim children by his Hulu wives. The oral traditions and Tarsilas of Sulu. The oral traditions and Tarsilas of Sulu also mention the coming of a certain Karim ul Maktoum, an Arabic title very common among Sufi missionaries. It is believed that this Maktoum was responsible for reinforcing an Islam that was already present on the island among other foreigners and their local families on Hulu, using the Muslim settlement on the islands as his base. Maktoum was proposed to have won new adherents from among the surrounding local and older population in Sulu. The Sulu Tarsilas and traditions speak also of Raja Baginda, who was believed to have arrived on Sulu around the late 14th or early 15th century. It is said that Baginda headed a fleet of warriors and settlers who came to Hulu from Minangkabau, Sumatra, to carve out a new principality in the Sulu region. The hill people were still not converted. The hill people were still unconverted. The coast people said, "Let's fight the hill people and convert them to Islam." But Abu Bakr would not allow it, and instead of told the people to found rice and make cakes and clothing. Then the coast people marched inland to a place called Paayan. Abu Bakr sent word to the headman that he was Arabian who would be spoken to by writing on paper. The headman, called in those days Somai, said that he did not want to see him, for he did not want to change the costume of the ancestors. So Abu Bakr approachable threw cakes and clothing into the houses of the natives. The children ate the cakes, but the older people taught them poison and gave to the dogs. The dogs were not killed, and the children went out the camp of Abu Bakr, where they were treated kindly. The two tribes came to an understanding. The night Abu Bakr slept in the house of the chief. The chief had a dream that he was living in a large house with beautiful decoration. Abu Bakr interpreted the dream, saying that the new house was the new religion and the decorations its benefits. The news spread, and after much difficulty, the people were converted to Islam. The introduction of Islam in mainland Mindanao. The credit for introducing Islam on mainland Mindanao is usually given to Sharif Muhammad Kabunsuan, but as in the case of Sulu, Muslim traders or missionaries may have been present already on Mindanao prior to his arrival. But because Kabunsuan was the first to consolidate political power in the Maguindanao and Iranon territories, it became natural for Maguindanao, Iranon, and even Maranao people to associate the introduction of Islam with him. In fact, it was in the Maguindanao and Iranon areas that the Maguindanao Sultanate would emerge. Peter Growing says of Sharif Kabunsuan. Despite the possibility of earlier predecessors in Mindanao, Sharif Muhammad Kabunsuan is regarded as a preeminent among the pioneers of Islam in that island. The old Tarsilas of Maguindanao indicate that he was the son of Arab father and Malay mother. His father, being a Sharif, was or alleged to be a descendant of the Prophet Muhammad. Maguindanao tradition also declared that Sharif Kabunsuan came to Mindanao with a migration of Muslim Samals. This migration made up the boatloads of people reportedly was dispersed by a storm, and the survivors found their way to the various points in Sumatra, Borneo, Sulu, and in the case of Kabunsuan as far east of Mindanao.